My guest is a former defensive end and two-time Super Bowl champion who played 11 seasons in the National Football League. He now hosts his own podcast, Green Light with Chris Long. Please welcome to the Stephen A. Smith Show. Chris Long, what's going on, big time? How are you, buddy? How's everything?
Oh, this is great. I've always wanted to be on this show. Ever since you started it, I was like, this is the best thing going, so I'm happy to be here.
Well, first of all, usually during my interviews, man, I mean, it's me. It's supposed to be a hot seat and all of this other stuff, and I have a good time with it. Don't get me wrong. But I got a soft spot for the Longs because I love Howie. I love Daddy. You understand what I'm saying? He and I go back a long way. So Before I start off any interview with you, how's Pops? How is Pops doing? You know that's my man. I love him to death. How's he doing?
He loves you. He loves watching you on TV. He's doing good, man. The off season is such a nice reset for him and those guys. They've been on that treadmill now for almost 30 years doing that show. And you know how that goes. I mean, I think it's a testament to not only my dad, but the whole group that they've been able to keep it together with different guys, Ronnie Lott, James Brown. They've had a number of guys come through there who have all done a great job, but the nucleus with Terry and Jimmy and my dad, and I think Kurt does a great job. Strahan's one of his good buddies. So I think what's really cool about those guys is they are who they are on air. And then when the off season starts, they get to go their separate ways and have some free time. So Dad's enjoying the free time.
I got to tell you, man, your father and I used to work at Fox together, and, he's just one of the great guys. And to me, just a model of consistency. Not just the fact that he doesn't seem to age a day. Let's get that out the way. He looks great, doesn't seem to age. So you got great genes. So evidently, as you get older, you're going to look better and better if your daddy has anything to do with it, because that's him. But this guy, I mean, just a model of consistency. Always been class personified, always been a straight up guy, and always spoke the truth as he saw it. And I just love him to death. He's just one of the most authentic people that I've ever known. How much did he play a role in you deciding to do a podcast?
Honestly, he played a big role in it. Now, not purposely. Okay. I mean, he steered me away from TV. Now, what you guys do is like walking out on that tightrope every day, and all these producers in your ears, and all these topics that people want you to cover and that sort of thing, and the travel. I grew up with my dad going to the West Coast every Sunday for the better part of my entire football career, and like he didn't get to come to games like that unless we played on like a Monday or Thursday. My mom would take the red eye from Oregon to watch my brother Kyle to the Edward Jones Dome, which is not a great place to watch a game necessarily. Okay. But she was on the red eye every week, and my dad, whenever he could, would make games. So I think just going through that gave me an impression that, like, hey, if you want to work in TV, you give up some of your autonomy from a lifestyle standpoint. And I really just like the idea of podcasting because I am a homebody. I like being my own boss. I'll admit that. You get screamed at for 11, 15 years playing college and pro football. You want to be your own boss. Yeah. And, I've had to do it my way over the last 4 or 5 years and learn how to run a business. I think football leadership is way different than business leadership.
How so? How so, Chris?
Well, Stephen A., can you cuss on this show?
So, yes, you can. Yes, you can.
Okay.
Feel free.
I'll give you an anecdote. I had all my producers in there year 2, and we were having like a come to Jesus talk. I'm sure you've had those before where you're like, guys, things are good, but we just need to tighten it up a little bit. Yes. And I framed it in a way that one of my lead producers a week later was like, hey, I've been meaning to talk to you about the way you addressed us last week. And I said, what do you mean? And he says, well, you called us motherfuckers. Yeah. And I said, I don't remember calling you a motherfucker. I don't remember the context of me calling you a motherfucker. And he said, you called us some hard-working motherfuckers. And I said, what is the problem?
Evidently, profanity is not a part of his life. Is that what it was?
Yeah, I think they weren't as well-versed in the many wonderful ways that you can use the word motherfucker. It can be an endearing term in my old line of work.
So they never saw Bernie Mac. They never saw Bernie Mac with the Kings of Canada. The word motherfucker.
These are not guys who are up on their Bernie Mac.
So they never saw it.
But that's what it is. It's like you have to adjust. When I played, it was like go, go, go. It was like everything's a competition. You have to rewire your brain, the way you communicate. How you communicate with different people, the way you work. More is not always more. And I think that was the biggest adjustment to me in making this jump. But my dad has helped me a great deal, and he also helped me without even knowing it, just keeping me out of the studio. Like, I like doing Inside the NFL with Ryan Clark and those guys, but it's in Philly. It's a one-day trip for me. I don't give up my weekends. So I don't know how you guys do it. The commitment it takes to do TV. Podcasting is an easy way.
Well, I tell you, for me personally, just to answer your question directly, and by the way, we could talk about this when I come on your show next week, because when I'm out there down in Texas by Southwest, I'm definitely paying a visit to your show. I'm looking forward to that, by the way. So am I. Yeah. But the way I can give you the easy answer for me, I was a scrub. I couldn't play on your level. You understand what I'm saying? So therefore, I better know how to do something. I better know how to put in a job and work 5 days a week, 7 days a week if I have to do what I got to do to make myself relevant, because I ain't had that kind of skill level that obviously you and your brother Kyle and obviously your daddy Howie all had, and props to you. Now, how do you pronounce your production company, your sports podcast production company? Is it Yote or Yote Media?
It's Yote Media.
Okay.
Now it's like coyotes.
Okay.
You know, it's just an unruly group of guys. It's kind of like an outhouse. It's kind of like a group of guys that just listen. Like, I think sports is supposed to be fun, and I think you do a great job of this. You obviously have to have serious, engaging conversations, but you know, when we were doing 5 podcasts a week during the pandemic, you think all of it was serious?
Of course not.
You know, we like to have fun, and I think people love to get a mixture of the hard-hitting stuff, and they like to see former players just acting like guys. You know, I think that's the appeal of a lot of the athlete-led stuff now, is you're getting to see guys from a different vantage point. And it's endearing. It's something that fans can empathize with. These guys watch the game the same way we do. They sweat their bad bets. They have bad takes occasionally. They fly by the seat of their pants sometimes. But ultimately, when it's time to put on my analyst hat, which has been something that I'm pretty cognizant of, is like when it's time to actually give an informed take, I don't want to be outworked by anybody. So it's that kind of like, it's that duality of having a lot of fun, but also being able to put that hat on and say, hey, I can do this as well as anybody when it's nut cutting time, when it's time to talk about serious topics.
What I wonder about, though, is that when you're talking about, when you're doing your podcast and you're a former athlete who's doing it, so many of them think they could do it, and their mentality is, okay, we're going to give you the proper perspective, because the media is not an entity that you can rely upon to do so. I've often challenged former athletes with that, because first of all, as a media member for 30 years, I never went out there speaking about something that I didn't know from the standpoint of just pontificating about it or off the cuff. My confidence came from the fact that I spoke to the parties involved. I couldn't always tell them, but if I spoke to Chris Long and Chris Long said, look, man, this is what happened. You know, here's what happened. Here's what I was thinking. Here's what went down, et cetera, et cetera. But don't quote me. I would go on the air and I'm like, yeah, this is what I heard happen. Okay, now figure out how I heard about it. But no, I heard about it. So to me, bringing that perspective, but being distant from it, not directly involved it, is a level of authenticity I think the media could still bring to the table compared to the athlete or the former athlete, because the former athlete might feel a bit compromised in revealing a bit too much because his contemporaries may not appreciate that. What validity do you attach to that level of thinking?
So I've never thought about it like athletes versus the media, especially because like the media, I mean, you can't paint with a broad brush. You know, like some people like to say, hey, the media at large does this, the media at large does that. The media is just like a pool of NFL players. Everybody's different. And, you know, there are beat writers. There are people who are a little bit more sensationalist. There are people that you can depend on. There are people like you who do their homework. They talk to people. They've been pounding the pavement for 30 years. I mean, like, I have a tremendous amount of respect for people that work at their craft. And, you know, that's the same attitude that I've tried to take. I know I joke about the podcast being lazy, but I'm putting in my 40, 60 hours a week during the football season. Right. You know, it's a serious business for me. And I do that because I don't want to look like a fool, you know, and my name that I've made for myself in sports and now in the media, like that can all go away in one bad rant, in one misinformed take. And, you know, I've had bad takes, I've had bad rants, but as long as I'm always approaching it like I owe the opportunity something, you know, I think that's going to come through in the work I do. I've never thought I'm better than media members because I played. Now there might be blind spots
Right.
that capital M media folks have because they weren't in locker rooms and they don't know the status quo in a certain situation. And you know how this goes when you're breaking down the NFL. And this goes for me and anybody who's removed from it that used to play as well. With every year that passed, I know less and less guys. You know, for 3-4 years, I was hitting up my buddies. Well, what happens when you know they all retire? Jason Kelsey's retiring now. That's one less guy I can text to ask him what the hell's going on.
That's right.
And you know, like I think that's the importance of networking with younger guys and trying to do that in a way that doesn't seem predatory. You know, like I go through this whole thing where, you know, I want to stay in touch with the guys who are playing and on the field, but I never want to seem like when I hit them up out of the blue, I'm mining for information.
Gotcha.
You know, I want to understand so I can do my job better. That's the way I look at it. I don't want to be first. I want to understand what I'm talking about. And I think that comes with a lot of hard work, and it also comes with an attitude where you don't think you're better than everybody because you played. You know, there's some things I'm going to know that you're not going to, but there's a lot that you're going to know that I don't know because you've been doing it for 30 years. And so I think it's that level of mutual respect. And putting in the work because I think people recognize that.
Yeah, former two-time Super Bowl champion Chris Long right here with yours truly, Stephen A. Smith. By the way, 2017, you stated you would give your entire salary to charity, donating weekly game checks to educational initiatives and scholarships in Boston, in Philadelphia, in St. Louis. You were named the 2018 Walter Payton Man of the Year. Let's make sure we remind our audience of who the hell I'm talking to, not just a champion as a football player, but a champion as a person. Let's get to some football news before I let you get on out of here because you played in Chicago, if I remember correctly. I mean, you hear the news about them doing having the number one overall pick, Caleb Williams or Jaden Daniels, or keeping Justin Fields. What direction do you think they should go in?
So
you didn't play in Chicago. I'm sorry. I apologize. I know you didn't play in Chicago.
No, you're good. You're good. My brother played there. I played against them a number of times. And the way I look at Chicago is I feel sorry for him. Ian Yates Cunningham is one of my good friends. I played college ball with him. Pole's doing a great job. I think Eberflus, with the way that defense played, and now with Jalen Johnson signed to a long-term deal, they've got backers they've invested in. They have an edge, you know, a stud that they've invested in Montez Sweat. They're set up on that side of the ball. And I think Eberflus really saved his job down the stretch last year.
I agree with that.
So I'll say this, though, Stephen A., and you've been studying this thing for a long time, so you might have an opinion on this, but I think selecting a quarterback in the top 5 out of necessity is like a game of Russian roulette that's usually left to the teams that absolutely have to play it. And, you know, if you look statistically at who's panned out, it is really hard to determine, hey, if I'm looking for the next Patrick Mahomes, well, where the hell is he going to be anyways? They've only made one of those guys so far. And 2, where is that guy going to be found? Because when you talk about some of the greatest players that ever played, not only were they not top 5, top 10 picks, you know, Tom Brady was deeper in the draft. Now, if anybody knew that beforehand, everybody would have rushed to take him. I don't even give New England a lot of credit for making that move. You know, Aaron Rodgers, you found him, you know, at the end of that first round. There was the famous shots of him sitting for a very long time, Patrick Mahomes at 12 or whatever it was, or 10. And they were the only people that had the gumption to trade up and get him. So I think it's easy to say, hey, the solution is clear. We need to trade the pick and go get a Patrick Mahomes. But to that, I would say good luck and enjoy playing the lotto because that's what it amounts to. Now, Justin Fields, I think, can be a really quality pro quarterback. And I think he already was on the cusp of being that at Talent of the Year.
Right.
To them, you just have to compare the haul, you know, and I'll admit it. I'm a play it safe guy. I really am, because I think with that defense – and with another step in the right direction for Justin, the first couple of years of his career in Chicago, he's throwing to guys with shadow pictures on the program, dude. And they're not real NFL targets. And just giving him DJ Moore is not enough. And just saying, hey, call it a day. He had DJ Moore. We saw what we needed to see. So I want to see him develop, and he's going to have an opportunity whether it's in Chicago or somewhere else.
I don't think it's going to be in Chicago, and one of the reasons I don't believe it should be in Chicago is because Chicago has the number 1 overall pick, and because of how questionable at the very least things have been over the last few years with him as the quarterback. The greatest quarterback in the Bears franchise history was Jim McMahon, who was no Hall of Fame, and we all know this. And so for me, if you've got the #1 overall pick and there's a stud or two at that position, you got to roll the dice, take your chances, and go in that direction, as opposed to asking the city of Chicago to settle on Justin Fields going forward when there are so many question marks, albeit not his fault. Having said all of that, where do you think an ideal landing spot would be for Justin Fields? Atlanta, Pittsburgh? That stands out in everybody else's mind. What about yours?
It looks like Atlanta is eyeing up Cousins. Now, if Cousins gets the pick of the litter, and I think he should, over anybody in this quarterback draft class or this quarterback free agent class or anybody that's available. So I think if Cousins is the first domino and Atlanta wants him, then that's where you look at Cousins. And I think Raheem Morris did a great job last year in LA. He didn't get enough credit. What he did with that defense was awesome. So I think they're going to be better, and that division's kind of a mushroom cloud. So I think Pittsburgh would be a great landing spot for Justin Fields. I'd love to see Mike Tomlin and that group with Arthur Smith, who loves play action, who can get a lot out of him, turning his back to defense and firing down the seams. Some of the weapons that they have there that I don't think have fully been realized. I think George Pickens can be a Hall of Famer. He's that talented. People laughed at me, and then he went for 200 after everybody got on his shit. Deontay Johnson, if he catch the ball, is tremendous. The two backs, I really like them. So I think Justin Fields in a West Coast offense, that uses play action, that the run game is featured. I think the concepts in Chicago suck last year. So if Arthur Smith can improve, which kind of seems like a misnomer because as a head coach, the passing concepts weren't great. But if he can get back to doing what he was doing in Tennessee, he got a lot out of Ryan Tannehill. And I think Ryan's a really good player, but I think you can get more out of Justin Fields.
Last couple of questions before I let you get on out of here. Is Justin Fields a better option for the Pittsburgh Steelers than Russell Wilson, who obviously is free to go anywhere?
Yes, I believe so. And this isn't slander because I played for Russell for a long time in my division. He made me a lot of money.
Okay.
Sacking Russell a few times a game.
That's right.
That's my guy.
You've had 70 sacks in your career, by the way. 70 sacks and 15 forced fumbles in your career. I remember that. So, yeah.
Yeah, I can probably remember all 15 of them, but a few of them were on Russ. And Russ, for me, one of the reasons I'm joking about it, but he likes to extend plays. And he's gonna run out the back of the pocket and all that stuff. And I think what he did a good job of last year, maybe too good a job, was buying into getting the ball out. And when I look at everything he did last year, it didn't look like he was really willing to push the ball over the middle of the field. There's a lot of short stuff, and maybe that's Sean Payton executing a great tank of Russell Wilson and that sort of thing offensively. But I would take Baker Mayfield over Russell Wilson, and that is not a slight at this juncture in their careers. And that
Baker
is not
Mayfield?
a slight.
I'm taken aback by that, Chris Long. I'm taken aback. I expected a lot of things. I damn sure didn't expect you to say you take Baker Mayfield over Russell Wilson. I didn't see that one coming.
At this juncture, Stephen A. I mean, did you watch Baker last year in Tampa? And listen, there was a game where he was good, man. And when he was getting ready to play, they were getting ready to play Jacksonville. We hype up Trevor Lawrence, and I really like Trevor Lawrence too, but he's got to make better decisions.
Yes, he does.
What is the difference in Trevor Lawrence's resume and Baker Mayfield's resume?
Not much. Well, Trevor Lawrence did overcome a 27-0 deficit in the first half and win a playoff game. I mean, in his first playoff game. That did happen against them damn Chargers led by Brandon Staley. That did happen.
It was Brandon Staley.
That's right.
But it was Brandon Staley.
That's true. That's true.
I think that's one. Well, hey, Baker Mayfield, kind of took the Steelers out back in the playoffs.
Yes.
So like they both had their playoff successes, albeit very brief. And I thought Baker played well in Detroit and gave them a chance to win in a really tough environment. I think the big difference is that Trevor Lawrence hasn't gotten banished from his first stop yet. And so I say that to illustrate the point that I think with quarterbacks, there's so much perception, right? And when you boil it down, there's only a couple guys, no makeup, who walk out there and look like, every other quarterback, it's about how you're dressing them up.
Okay.
And I think Russell Wilson at this point in his career definitely falls in that category. Baker Mayfield does. I think Justin Fields has a differentiating skill set. And so I am one that's into upside. And when you talk about the quarterbacks this year, I look at Justin Fields as the best opportunity to strike gold.
Okay.
You know, you never know what happens, but I look at that and I say, this guy's top end plays are incredible.
My last question to you before I let you get on out of here, and I can't wait to get on your show next week and talk and chop it up with you. I'm really looking forward to that. You won a Super Bowl with the New England Patriots in 2017. There was a 6-time Super Bowl champion as a coach in Bill Belichick out there on the market. Numerous jobs were filled. He didn't get one of them. Damn, I didn't expect that.
Yeah.
What do you say about that? How did that happen? Why did that happen?
Well, once the Atlanta job dried up for him, and I don't know exactly what happened, you know, behind closed doors, but I thought that would be a job that might suit him. I thought, listen, Bill, in my opinion, is the greatest coach of all time. I know that lately some of that shine's coming off the nickel and that sort of thing, and there's people that like to take pot shots. But, you know, look at his tenure in New England. The 2 Super Bowls that bookended that run were won on defense, okay? And last time I checked, they won a lot of low-scoring games in the playoffs to get to these Super Bowls. So conversation over in my book. He is who he is. Now, the one thing that he might be is he might be, some of the ways that he goes about things might be a little antiquated. You know, so for the first time in 30 years, he's interviewing for head coaching jobs. Like, I don't know how he interviewed. I don't know how willing he was to do a formal, typical interview setup. I don't know how willing he was to cede personnel control. That last thing for me could have been a deal breaker behind closed doors with a few teams. And quite frankly, if I'm Bill Belichick, what's a year to get my head right? He was so good on College Game Day, it almost shocked me. And I know how funny the guy can be.
Well,
so, you know, give him a chance to go out there, spread his wings a little bit, see what he likes to do. He'll come back. I bet you he will.
Man, the way I looked at it, man, somebody interviewing one of these young whippersnappers, one of these analytic dudes that's placed in the front office of one of these NFL teams interviewing Bill Belichick is the equivalent of me coming to you to talk to you about football plays. I mean, come on now. I know better. I mean, could you imagine how Bill Belichick was looking at them? I got to get on out of here, Chris, man, but thank you so much, man, for being on the show. Green Light, your podcast. I can't wait to be on it next week, man. I'm looking forward to seeing you face-to-face, chopping it up with you. Please give your dad my love. Of course, your brother, Kyle, my utmost respect. Looking forward to seeing him as well. Tell that man he don't owe me no damn apology. I know he brought something like that. He don't owe me no damn apology. Kyle, we're good.
When you see him in person, you're gonna be like, yeah, we're definitely good.
It's good seeing you, bro. Thanks so much for being on the show, man. Take care, buddy.
Right,
see you in Austin.
Yeah.
The one and only Chris Long right here with Stephen A. and the Stephen A. Smith Show. Up next, got something else to get into. It ain't sports related. It's our State of the Union. What the hell I'm talking about? If you watched TV last night, you know exactly what I'm talking about. Stick around. The Stephen A. Smith Show coming back with more in a minute.